Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conscious Conversations. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So I'm the founder of the Transformation Center, which is based in Westport, Connecticut. You know, at the center, we do a variety of classes, workshops. We even have sound baths in the backyard in the nice weather. And I also do individual sessions for clients with transformation coaching and energy healing. So everything is on our website, so you can check that out. We'll put up the contact info. It's just transformationcenterct.com. And we'd welcome your inquiries. You know, I do a complimentary 30-minute phone call. If you're curious about anything, just contact me. And, you know, we also do a lot online. We're still doing that on Zoom because you can attend from anywhere in the world. So we kept that going. And once a month, we have a shamanic clinic on Zoom, which is the second Tuesday evening of every month. So I'll be happy to talk to you about any of this. And the purpose, you know, of the Transformation Center in general is to really help you tune into who you truly are and transform those limiting beliefs and let go of who you're not. So that's really, you know, it in a nutshell, all right? So thank you for being here tonight for Conscious Conversations, and I'm really excited that my guest is Lisa Pirelli. Hey, Lisa.
It's so great to be here. Thank you, Katie, for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm glad we reconnected recently.
Oh, me too. I know the world is so busy. You're so busy. So actually, you know, it always happens when it's supposed to happen.
That's true.
Right? So it actually worked out perfectly for me as well.
Yes. Good, good. So I'm going to just read a little bit about you before we get started for our audience who doesn't know you at all.
Great.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And we'll put up your slide with your contact info so they know how to reach you.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So Lisa is a professionally trained executive chef, culinary educator, and wellness coach. And she teaches a lifestyle focused on health and longevity, and what could be better?
It's something that I strive for. And I have been doing so for a really long time, unbeknownst to me. So I'll share that a little bit later.
Great, because you know, that's what it's about. It's not longevity not being healthy. Why would anybody want that?
I know, but I think that we live our lives in such a rush. You know, so often I think people are caught up in the moment and making choices and not really thinking about the consequences. Mm-hmm. I can say that I was one of those people. I don't know about you, but you know, we all did things when we were younger that we probably wouldn't choose to do now. Mm-hmm. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a longevity lifestyle should start really the day that you're born. Right? When you can make choices.
But of course, when we're young, we don't think about that.
This is my point.
Yeah, exactly. You know, well, yeah, so we'll talk more about that in a minute, but I just want to say a little bit more about your background, because I think when I first met you is when you were serving as president of the Westport Weston Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
That was a while ago. And then before that, Lisa had a career in the cosmetic industry, and then pivoting when she became a mother to her first daughter.
Right.
Yeah, so everything changes when we have kids. Lisa is also a trained guardian ad litem and domestic violence advocate, and she's an active volunteer through her church and her community, a fine artist, focusing primarily on expressionism via the sea. I love that. And of course, she's an avid sailor because of the sea, a skier and pickleball player.
Amen.
Well, that's a very active lifestyle.
All part of the longevity, right? All part of really focused on longevity.
Yeah, and things that you enjoy doing, it sounds like. Mm-hmm. Which, is that something that you recommend for everybody, to find something that's active that they enjoy?
You know, I think that, are you familiar with the blue zones?
Yes, where people live a long time?
Right, they live beyond 100, right? And there are different pockets within the world and also within the United States, believe it or not, where centenarians are in high numbers. And the research has indicated that there are three things that really advance people beyond 75, 85, and now past 100. Mm-hmm. And the three things are what you eat, nutrition, the food that they're eating, activity and exercise, and community. And longevity really, if you think about the foods, most of these places are in warm climates, so they're able to eat out of their gardens, right? They're eating farm fresh to table. That's exactly what we should all be doing, right?
Right. So we didn't invent that.
No, we did not.
Like these are all restaurants didn't invent that.
They did not. They just reconnected with it, right? And that started, believe it or not, in the 80s, but really only became something that we're all talking about in the last decade or so, which is rather ironic because it's how we ate as children. We ate seasonally. We weren't eating strawberries in February because they didn't arrive in our supermarkets, right? We also didn't have the varieties that we have today of all the different greens. I tell a story that when I was growing up, I was assigned the task, being the only girl in my family, to go supermarket shopping with my mom on Saturday mornings. And I always tell people we had a choice of iceberg lettuce and iceberg lettuce, right?
Oh, no kidding.
That's what we had. And now there's so many different greens that are available. Right. And it's so wonderful because it's the balance and the mixture of all the greens and all the colors of the rainbow that really help us, with a longevity lifestyle.
Yeah. So it sounds like that you've been interested in this longevity lifestyle for a while now, or how did you originally get interested in it? Because you've done so many other things in your life.
I have, and it's funny because I would say that I didn't have the vocabulary longevity lifestyle as part of my person, but back when I was 26, my mom was diagnosed with her first cancer, and it was breast cancer, and it was something that everyone in my family had, between my grandmother and her sister and my aunt's daughters and their daughters. And I'm feeling very blessed that I have not had breast cancer, and my intention was never to get breast cancer. And when I was 26, I made a decision that I was going to live as healthfully as possible to really fight cancer well, right? To be prepared for the fight, because I saw how it was impacting my family. And in that journey, I made a decision to lose weight and exercise and, change my eating habits. And, it wasn't scientific. It was Weight Watchers back then.
Weight Watchers. Well, some common sense, I'm sure, entered into it.
Exactly.
Right.
Common sense. I mean, and, understanding that when you might have eaten too much of one thing, or maybe had few too many cocktails or glasses of wine, how that made you feel, right? I wasn't totally conscious of it.
So you were ahead of your time, it sounds like to me.
I guess,
in
my 20s, and then in my 30s, I was diagnosed with lupus after my youngest daughter was born. And so that was an awakening, because
what is lupus exactly?
It's an autoimmune disease, and and really what it impacts is, or it causes inflammation within your body. It's actually a mistrigger in your brain. So your brain thinks that you're hurt. So the natural response is to create inflammation to keep your body safe and protected. Only my body thinks it's constantly under attack. So lupus feels like you're always inflamed, right? Wow. And there wasn't a lot of science when I was diagnosed. So immediately I was put on a lot of different medications, had to make some hard personal choices, and then stayed on the medications for probably 7, 8, or 9 years. But there were consequences. There was significant weight gain, and there was also a lot of fatigue that still happened. And so I made a decision with my doctors to get off of them and to really focus on my lifestyle. And I'm 62, and I haven't been on medication now for close to 25 years. And, I do have episodes where I feel sick, but I would say more or less my lifestyle of good, solid nutrition most of the time, because I believe in balance, a good exercise routine, and community has really helped me to go through that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's terrific. Mm-hmm. So it's not like the disease is not there. You're just not feeling the symptoms because of
controlling them.
Lifestyle?
I'm controlling them through lifestyle. Now, listen, not everybody can do that. I know that. There's definitely a place for medication, but I also believe in the balance and the matrimony of Eastern and Western medicine.
Definitely.
And I think One of the funny things that I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but I can say I've never experienced going to a doctor complaining about something, and the doctor has never asked me, well, Lisa, what have you been eating? Tell me about, your drinking habits. What are your exercise? How are you sleeping? Those questions have never been asked, right? And I believe that's a huge piece of what's missing in our healthcare system, So I sort of pivoted into the food, right? And you asked me earlier, I've done so many things, right? How did I get involved? And so my lifestyle and my personal experiences have sort of informed it, but I decided to pivot. I don't know, I was sort of in between my career and opportunities, and thought I'd create another opportunity for myself. I've always done culinary work as a side gig, a side hustle, through when I was single and when my kids were young. And so I thought, maybe I'll be a teacher. I'll be a culinary instructor. And with that, I needed to have a degree. So I went back to culinary school, got my degree. And while I was doing my internships and externships, I started getting recommendations from friends who had health issues. And they thought that I could help them. And that's sort of how this whole eat well, be well concept was birthed.
Combined those two.
Correct.
Like.
Yeah. So that's how I kind of got to this point.
Right, because I do believe that our body knows. And if we can listen to our body and tune in to what its needs are, there's a lot of wisdom out there, but everybody's different too. Right?
Absolutely.
So I think food, the whole movement, food as medicine, it sounds like that's kind of aligned with your philosophy. Absolutely.
I mean, it's really about homeostasis, which is, the body functioning at full speed, right? And I'm not talking about fast. I'm talking about the whole system working the way it's supposed to work.
Optimal.
Exactly.
I love the word optimal.
I like that. That's a great word. So doing that at the optimal level, no matter what your age, by the way, right? And feeling great. And really my mission is to empower clients so that when they wake up in the mornings, they feel like, I always say, I liken myself to Tigger, right? And I'm like, when I had lupus, I don't know if you're familiar, or maybe because of our similar ages, Tim Conway on the Carol Burnett show. He had this character where he would shuffle across the floor, right? Yes. And that's how I felt. And actually in changing my lifestyle, and then I also sort of traveled down a road of partnerships with some supplement companies that I did an elimination diet where I got rid of gluten and dairy and just for 30 days. I believe in balance and I don't believe in deprivation, right? But it's great information because you learn how you feel, because when you eliminate the known allergens, right, and there are about 9 that are the most dominant allergens in our country, so eliminating 4 or 5 of them plus alcohol just for 30 days and then reintroducing them one at a time, you really get an understanding of how you feel and how your body responds. And with lupus, my body is not a fan of anything with gluten. I feel very fatigued and I feel bloated and I feel the inflammation immediately. And, with dairy, I get bloated and, with sugar, I don't sleep well. So it's it doesn't mean that I don't have cake. Doesn't mean that I don't have a glass of wine.
Right, you're just limited.
Right, I limit, and I also already know the consequences, right? And I weigh the options. And to me, that is how clients that I work with are successful, right? Because I don't believe in eliminating, unless it's, of course, toxic to your body.
Well, exactly. Like some people can't eat gluten because they have a terrible reaction.
Right, but deprivation is a recipe for, failure in my estimation, right? And people can go, really all in with, and I don't believe in diets. I believe in fuel, but I don't believe in, there are so many fads, right? I believe in balance, but people can go all in and then they're just craving something, or even if they're not craving it, they're missing it. They're thinking about it all the time, right?
Well, a lot of that is in our head, and plus our body becomes addicted. Just
Absolutely.
Speaking from my experience, recently, a few months ago, I decided to just pretty much cut way back on sugar. Not totally eliminate, because that's impossible because it's in other things.
Correct.
But added sugar.
Right.
It's eliminated. And it's like, after a while, I didn't miss it. At first I did, because it's an addiction.
It is.
You know, psychological and physiologically, I believe.
Well, did you also notice that you lost taste for things that were sugar-based? Favorite desserts or
Well, I
anything
just
like
wasn't
that?
eating them, so I don't know.
Well, it's interesting if you actually go back to a favorite dessert, whether you make it yourself or you get it someplace special, and you have a fork or two, you're going to be like,
Why did I love this so much?
right.
Well, you know, that's interesting because my downfall is actually chocolate chip cookies, not dessert. I don't eat dessert after
Well,
dinner.
those are dessert, Katie.
Well, no, but not after dinner. I don't think of it as a dessert.
Oh, okay,
I think
all
of it
right.
as a snack.
Okay,
That's
snack
how
cookies.
bad I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Because it's not in the 4 food groups, just so you know. It doesn't grow. We don't have a chocolate cookie bush. Or maybe you do.
No, but I would eat it, you know, like during the day.
Right.
So I haven't had one in months. So I'm wondering, it's interesting that you say that. I could go try it and see if I still have that same, like, oh my God, this is the best thing I ever ate.
Right.
You know?
I've always been a savory, if you ask savory or sweet, I've always been a savory person, but I love desserts and I happen to be a pretty good baker, right? And I baked regularly with my children, with them and while they were growing up. But my oldest daughter was diagnosed with celiac, which is a severe allergy to
That's
gluten.
the gluten, yes.
Right. So she was diagnosed when she was 21. So and she's 27 now. So for 6 years, I really not baked at all. Or I mean, I bake a little bit
Can't
on
you do
occasion.
it with other kinds of?
Of course you can. Of course you can. But it's taken me a while to embrace that, to be honest with you. Right. But nevertheless, I haven't really been baking regularly for 6 years. And so I also am a fan of chocolate chip cookies, and I make a really good one. But because I'm not really baking, I will often, I shouldn't say often, I would occasionally treat myself to a chocolate cookie at a favorite bakery in town. And I hadn't had one for quite some time. And I was there doing some shopping. I thought, oh, I'm going to treat myself to a chocolate cookie. And I bit into it, and I was like, And I bit into it again, and I was like, you know what? I threw that out. I don't need to waste my calories.
Just didn't taste as good as you remembered it.
It didn't. And I know the quality is there. I have no doubt about that. It's just that because it's here, right? Your brain, and it's really your gut, it's just responding, and it's like saying, I think I'd rather have a peach. And I would, by the way. So
Good for you. Good for
a
you.
good peach in the summer. Oh my goodness,
yeah. Oh,
nothing
yeah.
better.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
my favorite fruit.
Yeah, there's been some good ones already this year.
There have been. I agree.
Yeah. So that's really cool, though. But it's like knowing what your body responds to in a positive way and in a not so positive way.
Right. Really
Is that where
educating
you
yourself.
Start then the way you did it with like the deprivation. Do you advise clients to try that, to take things away and then add them back?
Well, not deprivation, elimination.
Oh, elimination, not
yes,
deprivation.
I don't believe
Wrong
in
word,
deprivation.
wrong
yeah.
word.
Yeah,
Elimination.
so optimal, right? So to really create an optimal, and really the optimal way of eating is shopping the perimeter of every supermarket, right? Like food is what we grow, and food does not come in a box, right? So like we talk about cookies, right? Like that's coming out of a box of sorts, right? So if you really focus on the perimeter of the supermarket, any supermarket you go to, you will see that's how they're all laid out.
You mean with fresh produce?
With fresh produce, I'm not a vegetarian. I eat all meat and fish, and gathering those and really trying to experiment with vegetables that you're not familiar with, including the colors of the rainbow in your palette, right, on your plate. And it's not something that you have to do every single day, right? I loved my children's pediatrician who used to say, you know, if my kids didn't eat vegetables and fruits every single day, but by the end of the week, they had their fill. That's a good thing, right? So we sometimes get caught up. We have to have all of these foods in one sitting or in 3 sittings, and it's not going to happen.
Well, it just depends on what you like too. You know,
That too.
I love vegetables, so I have about 4, 5, 6 different kinds every night because I love them.
I do.
I mean,
too.
I really do, and I crave them, and I just as soon have that and skip the other stuff. You know?
Well, make sure you have a good amount of protein. Women
Well,
don't do protein.
Yeah,
as much as we should.
I eat a lot of fish and seafood.
Good. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
But really trying to navigate foods that really fuel your body, right? And I love the analogy. One of the classes that I have taught in the past is to middle school students. And during their gym class, they will often have like a segment where they do health and nutrition. So I've been their guest chef, right? And I'll come in and one day, I'm not quite sure what prompted me, but I gave them this analogy, you know, especially with the 8th graders. They're 13 and 14. And I said, you know, in a couple of years, you're going to get your license. And you'll have the privilege of putting gas in the car, right? And there are 3 options. And you've got regular, you've got premium, then you've got high test. And I said the same thing exists with food, right? You can choose the regular gas and your car will go, right? You can choose the candy bar and your body will go. Okay, but at what expense, right? What's the long-term effect? And even the short-term. A candy bar is only going to get you going so far, right? And so you can step it up, right? And start choosing other foods that will give you protein, you know, muscles. You've got so many kids that are so focused on different sports, right? Theater, dance, I don't care. The activity requires our bodies to really be at their maximum. If you want to perform, you don't have to be the best kid, but you should want to do your best, right, on any team or whatever you're doing. And you want your body to feel good afterwards. You know, if you're not fueling your body, you're not going to perform well. You know, they're not going to recover well. And that has a long-term effect. You know, so as adults, you know, as we start navigating the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and beyond, our body is also adjusting and changing, right? The science of or the chemistry of our body evolves every 6 to 7 years and changes. So we have to make adaptations for that. And I can say as a woman, an adult, I'm pretty stubborn with that stuff. Like, I didn't like the fact that my metabolism changed. You know, it changed significantly after children. And then when I had lupus, and then, you know, as I entered perimenopause and then postmenopause, right now, it's like so many things change that aren't in your control. So why not make the time to become educated and control how you feel your body so that you can be at your best? Right? I mean, that is essentially what I really focus on, and with that, really focus on gut health, right?
Oh, yeah, that's big too.
Yeah, I mean, it's essential. You know, it controls your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. And you know, we have a couple of microbiomes in our body, and the gut is the dominant one, right? And without and what we're always fighting, by the way, is we're fighting this acidic gut, right? That is what causes inflammation, and it causes fatigue, and it causes depression. And I can't help but think that throughout COVID, when everyone was home, and we saw this huge spike in adolescent depression and anxiety, I can't help but think, and this is my own philosophy, so no one has to quote me, but I'm thinking with all the baking that was going on during COVID, I mean, you couldn't find a sack of flour in any grocery store, right? And you would see all the Instagram posts and the TikToks of all this. I can't help but think that the diet that people were eating, children, teenagers, led to some of this depression and anxiety, and continues because their habits were formed. You know,
so it's because of the sugar and the white flour and
all of it. Yeah, all of it.
So explain to us how that affects your gut, and what the connection is between mind-body connection.
Sure. So the microbiome, we're looking to create an alkaline gut. Like that again, homeostasis, optimal performance, right? So we're looking to create that through the foods that we ingest or that we fuel our bodies with. And when we're adding an imbalance or a large amount of sugar, and you know, sugar is in so much. You know, you can't really open a box of food without sugar in it, and most of it has gluten or flour in it. And one of the things that isn't really talked about is that all of these all these processed foods, you know, most likely have been exposed to glyphosate, right? And glyphosate is a chemical that was introduced to our crops back in the early 90s that has significantly impacted the health and well-being of our country. You see the spike of autoimmune diseases, specifically celiac. You see a lot of rashes and unexplained
allergies too, right?
Allergies, but also a lot of gut problems, that you see. And so really what we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do, is sort of correct the damage that's already been done and really, again, focus on foods that fuel your body, right? And balancing the gut. So not only is it foods that we choose, but I've also been I've been converted to supplements, and I say that, and for decades I never even took one. But I would say in the last 5 or 6 years I've been a proponent of it. Because our food system is not clean, right? And I'm not trying to be a crazy person, but it's not, right? And we're not eating seasonally. And unless you have a great garden that you're growing year round and you live in California, you're eating fruits and vegetables that are coming from the South America and the West Coast and from Florida, and all great stuff, but we're not eating them at their their ripeness, their perfection, or the perfect ripeness, and they've lost so much of their nutritional value. So supplements.
And also their taste, for that matter.
That too. Nothing tastes better than a freshly picked strawberry too. I just did that last month, and it was fabulous.
Yeah. So help me though understand about this alkaline and acidic, because I think it's almost like reverse. Like you don't. Like to get alkaline, you eat things that are more acidic, or am I have this backwards? How does that work?
No, so there is good acid and there is bad acid. So I encourage my clients, if they are going to have coffee in the morning, to have a pre and probiotic beforehand and set the stage in your stomach. So you neutralize the acids in your stomach, because that's
because coffee has acid.
It's a harsh acid, right?
Okay.
Someone said to me, well, what about lemon juice in water?
Right.
But that is not. That makes your gut more alkaline.
See, that's what I mean. That's what I thought.
So it's a healthier acid, right? So you just have to know the ones but really, if you add, whether you're adding fermented foods like sauerkraut or yogurts to your diet, not first thing in the morning, but you can, or you take a pre and probiotic supplement. And there are so many out there, and you can experiment and see what makes your body really fuel and move better. I have discovered in using a particular brand that my body really navigates well. And I actually am very excited because in the last month, this company just came out with formulations that are specifically made for women. And I decided not to use anything else but to really experiment with a few of these. And my energy, my clarity, and my sleep are significantly improved.
That's great.
So but for everybody, I mean, you can either decide to eat sauerkraut every day, which I love, and I have a jar in my refrigerator, and I eat it several times a week. Again, that helps with the gut. That has pre and probiotics, right? That's a fermented food that helps your digestion. It helps neutralize the acids in your gut. And again, it's trying to give a level playing field, because when you are not neutralized, when you're imbalanced in your gut, you do have fatigue, you do have inflammation, you do have lack of energy, you do have a lack of clarity. And depression and anxiety and a lot of mental health issues are directly related to what we're consuming. And one of my objectives is to be partnering with therapists and to work with them and their clients about their diet, right? And talk therapy is wonderful and necessary, but I believe the partnership with a good diet.
Totally. I think it needs to enter everything, physical, mental, everything. It's so important. Well, this is great conversation. We're going to have to wrap up. Unfortunately, it goes by really fast.
Yeah, it does. Certainly does.
30 minutes. But is there anything that I didn't ask you, that like one quick little thing that you'd want to say before we wrap up?
I think it's really aspiring to be balanced. Right? I think that, you get all sorts of sources of information from different studies and news organizations, medical journals. And I think really what we need to do is just really to focus on what works best for you.
Yes.
And you'll know that by the way you feel after you try something.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here, Lisa.
Thanks,
Thanks
Katie.
to our audience for tuning in today.
Thank you.
And to Verso Studios, Westport Library, thanks for hosting us. Take care. Namaste. Bye-bye.
Thank you.